This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah. Another myth bites the dust.
Hey everybody, before we start this episode, a quick shout out to our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by The Perfect RIA. How could it not be brought to you by The Perfect RIA? But if you enjoy these episodes, if you think that Micah and I, or at least Micah, have some great advice to give, head over to our website, theperfectria.com, and download one of our free guides towards making your practice better. So it's not just the things you hear on the podcast, it's the things that you implement. And if you're saying, you know what I'd really like to get in a room with Matt and Mike. I'd really like to ask them my own questions. I'd like to be coached by them. Then send an email to lifestyle@theperfectria.com, and one of our great team members will reach out to you and tell you more about the program. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Perfect RIA podcast. I'm your co-host, Matthew Jarvis, and with me today, special guest, Jonathan Reynolds, the CEO of Titus Talent, author, visionary, extraordinaire, everything. Jonathan, so excited to have you on the show today.
It is good to be here, dude. Thanks so much. I've been looking forward to this all day. Not because I was trying to get out of a long Zoom meeting, but I'm just excited to be here with you.
I love it. Well, you and I were introduced by a mutual friend, Scott Resnick, an EOS implementer, when we said, hey, we need to find a rock star integrator. And your team found us, Melissa Bushman, who runs the Perfect RA for us, phenomenal integrator. But what I'd love to talk about today, Jonathan, is how do you find, I'm going to call these people unicorns. How do you find these integrators? And then for people that have, whether they're integrators or any kind of key employee, how do they keep them from getting poached by you, right? Like it's like, I always feel like it's like a good and a bad talking to you. Like it's good because I want to get talent from you. It's bad because I don't want you grabbing my talent. So let's go through all that.
I love it. Yeah, I have spent my entire career in this space of talent and people and helping companies with their people strategy. So I think it's all a part of an all-encompassing people strategy. People talk about talent acquisition a lot. You're like, okay, how do I acquire talent? How do I get them? Where do I find them? And I'm like, well, let's make sure that you know how to keep them as well. Otherwise, you're just going to have them going out the back door. And so it's how do I attract, hire, engage, retain, develop, get the most out of, and give the most to? And if it's that even exchange all the time, you do a much better job. So we often talk a lot about, you have a business plan, right? For you, I mean, I know that you have a 3-year picture of a plan where you want to go, what you want to achieve, what you want to do and accomplish. And it's clear to you as a business owner, business leader. We'll break that down. What does it look like for all of your employees? Do they know what the next 3 years look like?
Interesting.
A part of that picture, as a part of the picture. The reason you need to do this is to stop people like us recruiting your people, because how you recruit A players is showing them what's next. Like, what would be next for you?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
I think the most stupid thing in hiring is we do this. Here's my job description. Let me find somebody that matches that. So people post it and some website comes back and says, I got a 95% match. And we go, ooh, it's so exciting. I won't have to train them. But why why the world would somebody in their right mind who's been doing something for 3 to 7 years or whatever your job description says, must have someone who's got 5 to 7 years experience doing such? Why would they want to go and do it again? If they just did it for 5 to 7 years at some company, why would they want to quit that and come and join you and do exactly the same job?
Sure.
Not A players anyway. A players don't want to do that. They want to run towards things, not from things. So the best way of hiring and retaining people is show them what's next. Show them how they fit into your future business plan. That's it. Simple.
Oh, I love that. I think, Jonathan, do you think it's any different for small businesses, right? So it seems like it'd be the same, but a lot of our listeners, right? 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 people's shops, right? But I could see where they as the advisor or the CEO would say, well, here's my vision. But yeah, I guess if your team members don't see themselves in that vision, either they're just going to grind it out, or when someone like you calls and says, hey, I have a better vision for you, they're going to jump all over that.
Yeah, I think it's like, whether you got 2 people or 200 people or 2,000 people, you imagine that you take a group photograph, hey, it's holidays, let's all come together for a holiday. Let's take a photograph and let's stick it on social media. Everybody by natural leaning goes to find themselves in the picture, right? So
Sure.
Where am I? How do I look?
Oh, yeah, of course,
how's my hair look like? Oh, great, it's nice and shiny.
Sure.
Like they look for themselves in that picture and they decide whether they like what they look like at all. Doesn't matter. Now, when you kind of show the org chart or the accountability chart, whatever you want to call it, of the future of your company, like what would it look like in 3 years' time or 5 years' time or 10 years' time? Are we a growing organization? Will there be more people? If there are more people, there'll be more open spots, right? There'll be more seats in your company. If you're going to show that future picture, people want to know, where am I in the picture? Am I going to be exactly the same role in 3 years' time? And if that is indeed the case, how are you going to retain talent who are, I know some people are very happy to sit in the same seat. Sure. But often people want to know, am I going to be grown? Am I going to be developed? Am I going to learn? Am I going to stretch? What does my career trajectory look like? What's my path? And you just need to match that career path for every individual to where your business plan is going. And if you can do that and show a realistic path over the next 3 years, I'll give you an example. At Titus Talent, when we hire people, we go, hey, here's the next 3 years. Year one, roughly, and you kind of control that 12-month period. If you grow really fast and help us grow opportunities for yourself as well. But year one will look like this. Here's how much we'll pay you for doing this type of performance.
Sure.
Year two, if you do that really well, there's no reason to believe, if we're all going and growing, you should have an opportunity to move maybe into another role or take on more challenge or take on more opportunity. It would look like this. And if you produce this level of work, this is what your compensation could look like. And we show that 3 years out. And that's how we hook people. Because when they go and hand in their resignation somewhere else, usually if there is a counteroffer, it'll be monetary.
Sure, of course.
And A players, most of the time, won't stay for the more money because they were leaving for growth, stretch, and impact somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they go, no, I'm actually not going to stay for the money because I'm actually going for something much bigger, purpose, growth, stretch, impact. And that's why I've chosen to leave and go to Titus Talent, which is great for us because we can attract A players. And we reset that every year. So sitting right now at the end of the year, we go, hey, sit with my leaders. And I go, okay, do you know what's next? And now, even on a flat year, if you're not planning on growing, it doesn't really matter. It's like, hey, it was not looking like there's going to be much of promotional opportunities next year, but doesn't mean there's not growth opportunities. How are we going to see you grow and develop? What kind of learning can we add to this? And that's one of the biggest reasons people will stay or leave organizations is somebody going to invest in me and help me grow and develop in my career? It's not just a monetary thing. People want to be paid fairly, but it doesn't mean just throw more money at me. They want to know, is there somebody investing in their growth and development?
Yeah, I think Daniel Pink talks about that in his book Drive, right? That self-master, that mastery of what you do is a big driver. So I guess that really makes sense. If you're in a smaller company, you say, well, I can't really promote you from vice president to president. We don't really have those roles. But if you're still able to outline, this year we're going to invest this, next year the other. And I love that you commented, this is how you get A players. I think sometimes I meet advisors and they say, hey, all we're attracting are B or C level players. But I guess, Jonathan, your point's valid. If you're saying, hey, we want someone with 5 to 7 years experience to do the exact same thing forever, and we're just going to pay you the least we can, and that's your vision for it, like obviously no A player is going to apply for that.
Right. Or they'll come and then they'll realize and then they'll leave and you'll just have high turnover and churn. And that's the thing we want to try and avoid for organizations is, okay, if you were to bring in an A player, how do you, what's your plan to keep and grow them and develop them? What do you want this person to do, achieve, and accomplish quantifiably that you would pay them 100% of whatever you're planning on paying them? So how does the business look different because they're here? And what have they done, achieved, or accomplished to make that happen? And then it's kind of, okay, what would that be worth to you? It would be worth this much. Okay, so that's the compensation, salary and bonusing. And this is what you want them to do, achieve, or accomplish. That is the exchange. Often we start talking about negotiation of compensation. I'm like, well, can we negotiate on performance as well?
Why couldn't you? Yeah. Never comes up, but why couldn't you? Yeah.
I'm okay to talk about 10 or 20% increase, but are we going to get 10 or 20% increase on the performance? Well, no, I don't think it's worth that. Well, to me, is what I'm saying I'm going to pay you. That's what it's worth.
Yeah.
And if you're saying you want to get more money, then I need to get more performance.
I love making that correlation so tight. And something I really enjoyed when I worked with your team when we were recruiting Melissa, it was that you really had this commitment. I don't want to feel like this is flattery, but it's like, we want you to find someone who's going to be a good fit for this long term. Sometimes you talk with recruiting groups or headhunting agencies, whatever, and it's like, we'll fill a position for today. We hope that they burn out tomorrow so we can sell you another person, right?
Yeah.
But I remember those conversations like, hey, if we hire someone, end up being Melissa, where is she going to be in 3 years and 5 years? How is this going to be a win for everybody? I love that approach versus, hey, we need someone to pull this lever in the factory kind of thing.
if you look back historically, how does recruiting function? The goal of recruiting is often to get the butt in the seat.
Yeah.
Recruiting has done its job. They're hired. Ta-da. And when we celebrate recruiters and reward recruiters for filling roles, if they're an agency recruiter, they get paid a big commission check.
Yeah, a big commission check.
And as you say, they kind of hope that that person makes it to their 90th day or whatever the number is, 180 days, so that they don't have to pay out some fee if they, pay back the money or replace them or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're celebrating getting the person in the seat. But that was never the point of hiring somebody, was it? Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, golly, we need to hire somebody so they show up on day one. Like, no, I need to hire somebody so that they can actually be a part of our organization, accomplish something that helps us hit our company goals or organizational goals, and sticks around here. So I often talk about those. The average tenure right now is 30 months.
Really?
Okay, 30 months. Yeah. So, and that's dramatically dropped from boomers. Average was 7 years. Gen Xers was around, 5 years. Millennials in that kind of 2 to 3 years. Gen Z 1 to 2. So you're sitting around 30 months right now. So it's dramatically shortened, obviously with the gig economy coming through, with many people working multiple roles of income streams, but 30 months. So I think would you hire somebody if they were going to be here for that long, that period of time?
Boy, that'd be tough. I would not be happy for that. Yeah.
If you knew that you were only going to get them for 2.5 years and be like, I don't know, 2.5 years, that's a job hopper. And I'm like, well, that's the average. So
that's normal now. Yeah.
If you're not okay with them staying for 2.5 years, you better provide a clearer plan for them to stay longer.
Interesting. Sure. So it's not this old school mindset of our parents, like, I'm going to work this job for 40 years, right? That's reminiscent days, right? So I guess if you're saying the average is 2.5 years, of course, that means half people drop before the 2.5. If that's the average, you've got to really, as an employer, you got to bring your A game. So I loved how you said early on, hey, I got to do this 3-year plan with every employee every year. And maybe it's not my favorite thing to do, but otherwise I might as well just count on this person leaving, right?
Right. I mean, the crass way of asking it is, what if a recruiter called you or send you a message on LinkedIn? I understand you'll probably delete most of the stuff and won't respond to other stuff, but what would you listen to? Like, what would capture your attention?
Oh, this is your question to ask your team member. Like, what would it take to,
Right. Yeah. And I remember this is years back, we had somebody on our team and we'd ask all of our managers, like, ask everyone on your team this. We're asking you as well. It's not a trick question. We genuinely want to know, if you were going to leave, what would the reason be? If you're willing to tell us, we'll try and match that thing. We'll try and meet that kind of, scratch the itch, if you will. And so we had a young team member, Gen Z, probably part of that category. They said, or maybe a millennial, but hey, they said, I'd love to go fly on an airplane and meet with a client and take them out for a meal. And they weren't in a role that did that. But to them, that was like this, for some reason, we can dig into the kind of the psychology of it, why and stuff. For them, that was a sign of success. I'm going on an airplane and I'm taking a client out for a meal. And I'm thinking, well, they're not in that role. It's when they got reported up to me. I was like, I'm looking on this list and I'm like, they want to do what? And I'm like, that's easy. Like, I'm going to Florida in next month. I'm meeting with a client. I was like, they can come with me. And I'm like, easy. I was like, come with me and we'll take this client out for a meal and it's fun. And I'm thinking, what that actually cost us was a fraction of what it would have cost to replace this person had a recruiter called them and say,
pennies.
Hey, I got this account manager job. And once every few months, you get to travel around the country and meet with clients. They probably would have left, like, for the same money for that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we've met that need. And sometimes it's really simple.
I love it. That's a brilliant question to ask, right? It's different than like, how satisfied are you with your work? Everyone's going to say, it's fine. It's whatever. What can we do better? Nothing better. Yeah. What would it take? What offer would have you leave? And then look to fulfill that. That's really incredible.
And it's just asking. It's just, sometimes we don't want to ask because it might be, it might be an ugly answer or an answer that we feel that we can't meet. Like, I wish there was, potluck on Thursdays, Mike.
Sure. Yeah. Free beer on the thing. Jonathan, I want to shift gears just a little bit. In your book, Right Seats, Right People, which is available on Amazon, great book. You talked about in the book, like your early days of just grinding it out, like going out and just, man, you were like doing the hard work. And I want to have you talk about it a little bit, because sometimes we see guys like yourself that are running these great companies and it's like, oh, Jonathan must just like hang out all day and have a great time. But you really grounded out to get there. I guess what message would you deliver on that for people to say, like, I want to have success like Jonathan has? Like, it didn't fall in your lap, right? And your book talks about this.
Well, why do you do what you do? I guess what's the big sort of primal question you're trying to get answered in your life? Is it success? Is it safety? Is it security? Is it purpose, meaning? What is it? Feeling wanted, ego, the success of like, I want certain things in my life. I'm trying to prove to my dad that I can do it on my own. Yeah. Figure out that kind of stuff is kind of important. Otherwise, it'll drive you nuts if you don't figure out why you do what you do. For me, I recognized early on it was about like purpose. I wanted to know that what I did mattered. And I have this other dynamic of my family of origin upbringing. Bigger was always better. Like, how big is it now? How many team members do you have? How many clients do you have? Are you in every country in the world? It was like, I remember really in the first few years, I'm like, we should launch in England because I'm from England. We should do that because then I'll be an international company, Totally bombed. I was like, it was a terrible motivation to do that, I'm like, what question am I trying to get answered by doing this, But I think understanding your motivation of why, and then understanding what would make you feel really proud in a certain period of time. Is it 3 years, 10 years, whatever it is? So for me, it was, team. Like we say, our people come first before our customers even, which is I know, a little bit different. But we said we'll put our people first. We'll make major decisions with how we can grow company for the good of our people. Number two, taking care of we call our partners, our customers. Be really focused on them, but our people to take care of them. And then lastly, we'll make profit decisions. We're not making profit decisions first. We're going to make people decisions first. So that will be our lens. And then we said, why do we want all these profits? Is it just so I can have profits? No, we want to share those profits with our people and our communities. So we're a for profit, for good.
Sure.
And any kind of a downturn, economic crisis, or global pandemic, if there was one, the thing that helped motivate us get out of it was that purpose. Like, we want to be profitable so we can give back to our people and our communities. And so in this decade is to give $30 million to transform communities for the greater good. And we're 3 years in, 53% of the way there in the decade, which I'm like really excited about. But our team are really on board with that, this kind of component of making an impact, purpose, and generosity. So it's been a lot of fun doing that, which kind of led to this whole thing of like grinding it out. I really wanted to grow so I didn't have to do the things I didn't want to do, and we'd have people to do it. So it motivated me to have a great team of highly capable and driven and passionate people who could do things that are just so far beyond me. And right now I'm sitting going, wow, I can't believe we have a team that does this. I can't believe we have a group that does this. I can't believe a team that is like beyond my wildest dreams in some ways. And then in some other ways, I'm like, no, I saw all this and I see a lot more as well. But I think it's just surrounding yourself with amazingly talented and hard people.
No, I love that what you mentioned. Like, there's hard things that I want to be able to have somebody else doing, but I got to do them until I can basically afford, but until I can do enough good, right? So I have to do enough good doing these hard things so I can delegate. I think sometimes we get caught in this, like, hey, there's these 10 things I don't want to do, so I'm just not going to do them. But I don't yet have the resources to have someone else do them. Like, you got to just buckle down and do those things and then almost earn the right to have those other people on there. When you're doing that 3-year vision setting with each team member, now again, at Titus Talent, you guys have a large team now, right? This isn't just like with 12 people these days. Are you tying that to this profits and good thing? You're saying, hey, we're trying to raise this $30 million and you're tying each person to that?
Yeah, I don't think it's as specific or directly as that, but we know that we want to hit our financial goals so that. We want to hit our financial goals so that we can give back and profit share. So we have a profit sharing model with our employees and profit sharing with the communities. And so one of the things we do on that is every employee and every team member was saying, hey, what is something that you do in your community that you're involved with that we can give to? Because we've already put this money aside. So that we can do good. So what are you involved with? Sometimes it's like, well, my daughter plays volleyball. I'm like, great.
Perfect.
Can we, how do we support that? Like, I'm not saying by way of sponsorship with our logos. I just mean like, what can we do? They're on a club team or what? Can we actually provide memberships or dues for kids on the team who couldn't afford it? Because it feels great. It feels great to do that. I genuinely believe it's better to give than receive. And so it's a great principle. And I think when you actually do it, it just feels great. And so we want to empower our employees to go. I realized this with I have a son who plays soccer. Yeah. And every parent's experienced this. You've got kids in some kind of sports, that kind of that moment where there's a parent teacher night or parent coach night, and you're like, oh man, they're going to ask us to fundraise. I know it. And it's kind of like, everyone's going to sell candy bars around the neighborhoods, trying to raise money we can get you new soccer kits or whatever. And you're like, for me, I was just like, golly, how much are we looking to raise? We're looking at that much money. And I'm like, I got it. Don't worry, I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Not because I'm like, feeling generous. I still want to sell candy bars. Like, I'm like,
sure.
Can I get out of this? I'll pay it. We've already put the money aside. My company will pay this thing. And I realized that's such an easy feeling and a great feeling. How do I give that feeling to every one of our team members where they, without even asking, go, I got it. My company's covering it. And every other parent looks at them going, you own a company? Like, no, I don't own a company. My company's already empowered me and equipped me to say, I got it. I'm like, that is an amazing feeling, which almost feels like some of the privileges of company ownership that we give that empower it to our people. So they know they can ask for money or they can just assume that they've got it. That's been a lot of fun too.
Yeah, and I totally get it, as we're talking through this, like this is really coming from your heart of hearts. Like this is a generosity, abundance play. But if we're looking at this dollars and cents, I mean, you're getting a lot of juice for the squeeze, right? Like the money that's going, that your team members are able to give to these groups that they're passionate about. I mean, the ROI for your company is incredible. Again, I know you're doing it out of abundance because it's amazing, but like you're also running a for-profit company. Like, this is a great way for you to support your team members. And then therefore, like these guys will take a bullet for you, right? Because you're like, man, Jonathan's got our back. He's helped us in ways that no one else has ever helped us.
I had a great moment when I realized I was sort of doing the social media scrolling one evening, and I realized that there was somebody on our team who had posted, they're raising money for cystic fibrosis, and I didn't know anything about cystic fibrosis, and I'm like, what this is about, and I saw they were raising $1,000, and I'm like, easy, and so I just hit the number $1,000, didn't think anything of it, and I got this email from her saying, oh my gosh, like I can't believe like we hit our giving goal. Or what we're fundraising goal. That was amazing. And I'm like, thanks. I hit it again. I thought that felt good. A little dopamine rush. I was like, let's double it. So it's like, a couple of grand. And I get this email from her again next day. She said, I had to wait till my husband got home. She's like, when we got married, we made a decision that we were going to raise $1,000 every year for cystic fibrosis because my husband's sister died when she was 11. And we wanted to commit for the rest of our life to raise $1,000 for research to end it. And I'm like, and she goes, my husband's in tears. Number one, we've never reached our goal. And I'm thinking, what? I thought we hire overachievers here, but okay. Anyway, But I'm like, wow, I can't believe you never reached that goal. Number two, neither of us have never worked for a company that have noticed or given to this goal. And it wasn't like a brag of like, well, I noticed. I'm like, because I just happened to notice. She never even asked.
It was just a chance, yeah.
But my response, because I was on this whole thing of like, how do you use generosity strategically to retain great talent?
Yes.
And that's what I say, give to the things they care about. Like, how do you use it strategically to grow your business, give to things your clients and your customers care about? And so I said, hey, well, every year you're with us, I'll double it. Now, I didn't think about compound. I'm like, shoot, I hope she's not, I went away and I was like, God, in 10, 15 years time,
10 years from now, we're going to have a problem.
$1 million in that year in 15 years time, I'm like, shoot, I hope we grow really big. So recently I was like, said a happy anniversary note to her. And I said, she goes, I just want to say thanks again for all the support and the things that me and my family care about. And I was like, yeah, we should probably either fire you or reconsider that.
Ready to revisit that,
But what it does is you say you get a lot of, juice for the squeeze. She goes to a family Thanksgiving holiday party or whatever. How's they working at Titus Talent? Like, oh my gosh, the thing we really care about?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe this.
What the impact is. This year they get $4,000. Next year they give $8,000. Just keep doing that math. Like, that's a story worth sharing. And so it's like, we could write a check to, blanketyblank.org, like just some national thing. And I could hold up a big check and go, look at us. Or I could give it to our team members to give to the things they care about. And I think that's got way more meaningful than writing a big check for some big national, not-for-profit. But no, give to the things your people care about. You get much better return on that investment.
Yeah. Let's acknowledge it's certainly more meaningful, but it's also a lot more work, right? Like, again, you don't just have one employee. It would be easy. Like, we could see why companies like, we'll write one ginormous check and we'll hold it up to the Red Cross, which they do great work too. But like, to go through all of your team members, and I just mentioned that because that's the kind of commitment it takes to attract and retain a talent, right? You can't just like, I'll write one giant check and everybody will feel good about it. No, like, it's got to speak to them and what they're passionate about. And I love this, Jonathan, to your point, like, you're doing real good in the world. This isn't some like, I've optimized and discovered that if we give $327 each person's charity, we'll get optimal performance. Like, you're really trying to make the world a better place.
I've got a whole guide. If any of your listeners want a guide on this, we wrote a generosity and a giving guide to help companies do this efficiently, effectively, great return on the investment. And when I say return on the investment, I'm not meaning like, are we getting paid back on this? Like what I mean is like the equity that we build in our relationships far outweighs the actual dollar amount that we're giving. I mean, we've done some pretty extreme things. One is we took the entire company down to Mexico. We went and built houses together. That was awesome. We did that. We've done that.
Yeah.
A couple of times. We've taken multiple trips with our customers as well to do the same trip. It's been really, really fun. Because I mean, like people are like, cool. I'd love to how do we build better relationships with our customers? Well, one of the ways of doing it is having a nice meal together. Another way to do it is go on a crazy trip together. And do good and get sort of sweaty and rolling up your sleeves and building a house somebody else where it's just like, wow, that is a life-changing deal. At Thanksgiving or the month of November, we give every one of our employees $100 and say, just go and find someone to absolutely, bless the socks off of, and then come back and tell us the story in front of the whole company. And whoever has the most moving story, we've got a lot, I think it's like 10 grand or something like that, we'll give to you to give away, so with the top three, you got to split that. And it's been really, really fun because people come and tell all these moving stories, and it's just a way. And what happens is our team members often will match that money. So they're like, oh, thanks for getting $100.
Sure.
I'm going to put another 100. And then some of them get their family members and neighbors joining in. Like, I turned that 100 into 700. You think, it's just this multiplication. And you go from a generous company to a company full of generous people. And you attract generous people. You attract people who want to give above and beyond. And so it's been really cool to see that movement over the last 8 years of us running and existing. And we're 170 salaried team members now. And so it's been a lot of fun having that drive and purpose motivate what we do, making an impact. And it's been cool.
That's awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, for sharing your generosity. For all of our listeners, be sure to check out Jonathan's book, Right Seat, Right People. If you're looking for amazing talent solutions, we've used them ourselves. Super big advocates of that. Jonathan, thank you so much. And for all our listeners, until next time, happy planning. Hey, before you leave, a quick word from our sponsors. Hey, everybody, I want you to take a quick look around your office, and on your desk, there should be the Retirement Tax Services Desktop Tax Guide. And if it's not there, or if it's not current, meaning you didn't download it in the last month, go to retirementtaxservices.com and download the desktop tax guide. This is a must-have resource for every financial advisor committed to tax planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect RIA, the perfect RIA.